Hello there, Bronco fans. Shed Ring right here at Bronco Planet, and a very scary Halloween to you. Scary isn't that scary? Denver Bronco game. It's all right, Chris. Come on. It's going to be all right. Come on. Snap out of it. There'll be better days. Maybe a couple years from now, but there will be better days.
Calvin Johnson just scored again?
Again. Oh, man. Well, Bronco fans, I guess, you know, those who have been following the Broncos and watched the NFL, we knew this was going to be a tough game. I think you talked about last week, said it was one thing to give your all and go to overtime to get a win against the winless Miami Dolphins, and then now you play one of the tougher teams. It's just like the Green Bay game. Realistically, not much of a shot, but even though you know you're going to lose, we didn't want to say it out loud, but I know we were thinking that. You got to be a little disappointed in some of the things you saw today. Let's start right where everybody's talking about the quarterback. Chris, your thoughts?
He's not good.
All right, elaborate a little bit. We got that.
Well,
what was that? The quarterback rating, completion ratio?
You know, every change in the NFL rules in the past 5 or 6 years, from protecting the quarterback to, you know, the DBs taking their hands off of the receivers, everything has gone towards throwing the ball, putting points up on the board. You can't complete 40% of your passes, 46% I know for you Tebow lovers. You can't be under 55, 58, 60% and win in this league anymore. Go look tonight. Go look at who's leading the league. It's not going to be a big shock. Leading the league in completion percentages, Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, Roethlisberger, guys that have a lot of jewelry. Yeah, now is it fair, though, realistically, to mention Tebow, who's had, what, 15 practices, 14 practices with the starters, to expect that he's going to come out and compete better than that? Or are you worried about the end-over-end passes that we... Here's all I know.
I don't know
Here's all I know is that he's had fewer practices than Cam Newton.
Yeah, well, that may be true. Well, did Newton get him, though, all during preseason and stuff while we were watching Kyle and Boris asleep?
You know what? More than anything, the thing that's unfair to Tebow is who's surrounding him.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you and I working with Danny. You know, sometimes there's always the weak link, the kind, and he's a good guy. We try to be nice to him. More than anything, you know, Eric Decker, nice pickup, right? He's a great probably slot receiver, number 3 option. But when your top options are Eddie Royal and Decker and Matt Willis, and that's not an NFL team.
Yeah, not really, and I didn't help him any. Obviously, we lose Brandon Lloyd, who scored one in our face. Scheffler today scored one in our face. We got Willis McGahee out, who's hurt. So, you know, he didn't have the best team there, I think, to your point. But, you know, I got to tell you, because you hear, and I've said it right, everybody knows rookie quarterbacks have a hard time, right? You look at Elway. Elway had some games. I think he had 3 or 4 interceptions his rookie year. As a matter of fact, got benched. But what you didn't see was that mass confusion. Yes, he lined up behind the guard one time. But, I mean, as far as, like, he rolls back there, looks completely lost. Goofy-looking passes come out. And I love Tebow. I love his attitude. I want to cheer for him. I was never more happy than last week. But what's a little bit different than me and all these over-the-top Tebow lovers is that I get that he's, you know, he's not that great. I mean, there are people who think he's on his way to Canton, Ohio. I mean, and I get it, because he's a guy you want to like. He's a guy you want to see do well. But that was a pathetic performance. I think that the Broncos have been sacked 14 times in the last 2 games. Yeah. If you look at the first 3 quarters of the last 2 games, I think like 0 for 18 on third down conversions. And then finally the 4th quarter, maybe it's prevent defense, so scrubs come in. All of a sudden he's lighting it up. And maybe I'm being too critical, but that was piss poor, really.
Well, but it's a function of who's around him. It's a function of who he's throwing to, who's protecting him. It's also a function, I think, and you and I have had this conversation, it's a function of Mike McCoy putting him in positions that it's not his strength. He's not a classic drop-back quarterback. He's not Roethlisberger or Manning, who is going to take a 7-step drop and look off a safety and then deliver the ball. He needs to get the ball, get it out of his hands, and we saw that, and I know it was 3rd string, 4th string, guys out of the stands playing in the secondary for Detroit on that last drive. But the times they moved the ball was a snap and then getting it out to Decker on the edge or Royal on the edge, and those guys are good enough after the catch. You know, we all saw him. You know, we all saw him play at Florida. He was never a drop-back quarterback. You know, McCoy, who's been so disappointing, has got to do a better job. I can't believe there's not plays in the playbook ask him to get the ball out quicker onto the edges where you can attack the edge
John
of the
Lynch,
defense.
former great Bronco, I don't know, 9-year Pro Bowler, sees it. And then that's the frustrating part. Now, I never thought I would dislike anybody more than Josh McDaniels, but Mike McCoy is really pushing it with me. And it's so predictable. And we talked about those tight ends looked like they could do something. He had like 3 attempts to tight ends, and it's just a mess. But I don't know. We're going to roll out. You know, Danny was a little smart this week. He could sense that the A-bomb was coming, so he didn't even show up. He's actually at the Bronco Planet Man Cave, so I'll roll it out to Danny, see what he had to say about this mess of a Broncos game. Danny, it's all yours.
With that, I now have a Christmas Afghan. Hey, Shad, Chris, how are things? Just finishing up a little knitting that I started in the second quarter of this game. Just wanted to give you guys my 2 cents real quick on this game, this debacle, if you will. I'll leave all the nuts and bolts of everything to you two guys, but just a quick Tim Tebow take on my behalf. If today's game proves anything, is that the Denver Broncos have more problems than just Tim Tebow. Now, let's face it, I'll even give you a good-bad scenario here. The good was that Tim Tebow tripled his quarterback rating over his last game at Miami. The bad news is that last game at Miami, Tim's quarterback rating was only an 18.2, so obviously a lot of work to be done there. Tebow finished the game 18 for 39, 117 yards. He fumbled the ball 3 times. Interception that was ran back 100 yards the other way. On a bright note, though, he did throw 1 touchdown pass to our favorite receiver, Eric Decker, in which, you know, let's give Eric Decker his props. He really made an extra special effort to get the ball in the end zone. So kudos there to Eric Decker. Last week I talked about the keys to the game, and it seems like the Broncos were only to hit on one of those things. And that one thing was not to tick off Ndamukong Suh to the point where he was putting our guys onto the IR. One thing that was very important to any kind of success today for Tim Tebow was the offensive line had to show up and play lights out. Well, the lights were out. They didn't show up. Tebow sacked 7 times. Now, I'm not going to put it all on the front 5. Tebow a couple of times held on the ball long enough that you could have read War and Peace by the time he finally made a decision to get rid of it. The other big thing that I talked about last week is I know that the Denver Broncos are not a very good football club. We've got a lot of holes to fix, but the one thing that Tebow gave us was entertainment, and that's one thing this week that I was just hoping for, at least just entertain me. Well, let's be honest, the only entertaining part of this week was sitting right here in the Bronco Planet Man Cave sipping on a Pink Lady. It's a man drink. I'm going to throw it back to you guys, let you break down the rest of this stuff, but in a nutshell, bad offense, bad defense, bad play calling, it was just bad. Good news is, I've got a pretty good head start on an Afghan for Christmas.
Well, it's always good to hear from Danny. I think that Afghan may be for you later on. I hope it's not coming my way. Danny, you know what I'm expecting, some autographed Bronco memorabilia, or you are off my Christmas list, brother. So anyway, I don't even know what to tell you. You know, you continue to see the headache of the Josh McDaniels year all over the team. I mean, it's just guys that can't get it done. No Sean Moreno. You know, that first drive gets a long run. You think, hey, this may be his day. Man, we miss Willis McGahee big time. I thought Lance Ball filled in a little bit better. Outside of Eric Decker, it just looks like a complete flop. I mean, the whole thing. And so I just can't get that bad taste out of my mouth. You know, once again, I think Cliff Harris, Cliff Harris, is that his name?
Chris Harris.
Chris Harris. Cliff Harris would have been good. That's an old Dallas Cowboy. I remember that's old school. I've been around a while. But yeah, I mean, well, I don't know his name because this guy wasn't even drafted. And he leads the Broncos in tackles today, and that only means one thing. You're getting burned, and you're in the secondary. You're tackling your guy after he got 20 yards. And you called it, you know, Brian Dawkins trying to cover somebody. Great at blitzing, great at stopping the run, but a disaster covering people out, and was, you know, burned badly for that touchdown right out of the gate. And it's a nightmare. So help me out here. You know, it's Halloween, and I know it's supposed to be scary and gory, but
it was.
Is the rest of the season going to look this, you know, nasty? What do you think?
You know it's bad when you're looking at the rest of the schedule and you think, you know what, if we can split with Kansas City, then there's a shot at 3-13. You know, seriously, look down that schedule. You're not going to beat the Jets. You're not going to win. You're not going to beat Buffalo. You're not going to beat San Diego. The Raiders, depending on how poor the quarterback play is in that game.
Yeah, that was who knows
outside
how
of
they're going to show up.
You know, it just. what I can't get my head around, Champ did such a good job locking down Calvin Johnson, and so Scott Linehan from the Lions offensive coordinator decides, we're going to move him into the slot.
Now, hey, lo and behold, did you see that Mike McCoy, an offensive coordinator, see something adjust? You ought to try that one.
Well, that's what I don't get is we're taking Champ. He pretty much had shut down Calvin Johnson, and so they adjust to it, and we're moving Calvin Johnson around, and guy ends up catching over 100 yards and a long touchdown pass again, and I don't – the vanilla play calling just –
if there is one more play this year where it's 3rd and I don't care what it is, and they throw it 2 yards short again, I am going to put a brick through my TV, and I'm going to send the bills to John Elway and Xanders and company for hiring this Nilrod and keeping him this year. It's just driving me bonkers. So you're right. It looks dismal, and I know a lot of fans. We watch your stuff on Facebook. We're going to get, you're not a diehard, and you guys are making me sick. But this is reality, folks. We have got a crap team right now.
Yeah, listen, nobody wants. It's the same thing with Tebow as it is with the Broncos. There's not a bigger Bronco fan, right? I grew up here. I remember the San Francisco Super Bowl, Dallas Super Bowl 12. I mean, nobody wants them to win more than I do. I'm just not so unrealistic about it that I'm going to tell you this is the team that can do it. Same thing with Tebow. By all accounts, he's a great guy. Obviously, guys play hard for him, very enthusiastic, a good guy off the field. It's a kid that I think you'd like to have around on this team. I think probably what needs to happen is that you change the initials after his name, and instead of QB, maybe it says TE or something like that. It's a guy, he's obviously talented in the open field with the ball in his hand. Why you don't put him in a position on the edge to get there? I'm not afraid to tell you, though, I'm pretty good at Madden. And so
Very
maybe
good.
if they want some tips on play calling, I mean, I'm happy
You're
to help.
all in. You're all in. I don't know why they refuse to use a combination, and people have said this all year round. Well, yeah, there are some situations, even at quarterback, I think Tebow comes in and can do some special things. Now, it hasn't been fair, and there's so many gaps at the, John Elway was right. This team is not going to be good. There's so many gaps to fill. It's going to take 3 years, but
the difference being is it's got to follow the 3 years that Detroit did. Remember, Detroit was where Denver is now, 4 or 5 years ago, and they just killed it in the draft. And Elway's right. 3 or 4 years ago, this is a playoff team if the right guys are coming in. And we've played our way out of Andrew Luck. There's some other good young arms in that draft, but the problem is you've got holes in every position group that you need filled.
Safeties, we need a cornerback. Andre Goodman has burned every single game this season at least once. Safeties week. We need another guard. We need defensive tackle. We've been screaming that forever. So a lot of holes to fill. But don't give up to faith, Bronco fans. And speaking of faith, we're going to roll out. We had from Home Plate Novelties out. Let's see if I can get this thing turned around here. Was giving out these shirts today. He's a fan of Bronco Planets, and this is going to be yours, folks. All you got to do is go to our soapbox and just do a little rant. No cussing, no potty words on Bronco Planet. Go to soapbox and let us know how you feel. What's driving you nuts? Because you know what they say. It's good therapy. Get up there in the soapbox, let it rip. Keep it clean, and we will raffle this off and send it off to you from the fine folks of Home Plate Novelties. It's good talking to Danny, but, a scary, spooky Halloween. We hope you guys have a happy one. Let's hope that...
Well, speaking of scary and spooky, let's be honest, Sunday, the prospect of Tebow on one side and Bowler / Carson Palmer... This is going to set pro football back 50 years. They might outlaw the forward pass after this game. It's horrible.
The good news is if it goes back 50 years, we can afford to go back a few years, but Bronco Planet will be there nonetheless. We'll keep the faith. We'll keep cheering along there, folks, but that was a rough game for everybody to watch. No surprises. Broncos beaten down badly. You know where you can follow us, Facebook, Twitter, just about anywhere. You got a YouTube channel, and always at www.broncoplanet.com. We'll catch you next week, and hopefully there's at least something good to talk about. I doubt it.
Keep your head up.